This is the Stanley TRE550 heavy duty electric staple and nail gun. We're working on a project in the greenhouse at the moment, and I've been using my trusty old Stanley sharpshooter. I've had this for many years, but it started playing up and I need to reset the lever with a screwdriver, which is very dangerous. So I decided to look at alternatives. I decided to research an electric one, so I decided to go with Stanley because I've used a lot of Stanley equipment over the years and it's usually good gear. So I thought I would also review this and let you guys have a look at it as well. I'll just let you look at the packaging and give you a few details. It's got a 2.4 metre cable. Basically it will use anything from 6 to 14mm staples and 10 to 15mm brads. Inside the packaging, just a staple gun and a set of instructions. Now, it doesn't come with any staples or brads, which I think is pretty poor really. It should at least supply a few staples with it. If you do decide to buy one of these machines, if you notice on the machine itself, you've got the staples shown in a green box and the brads shown in an orange box. If you look at the actual Stanley staples and brads, they're colour coded as well, so you will know whether the staples or the brads are suitable for the staple gun. I decided to take a chance when I bought this. I didn't have any brads for it, so I bought the brads, but I'm going to use my old staples, the ones that I use in the old Stanley staple gun, because it says on the Amazon website it uses T50 staples. These staples are actually Black & Decker T50 staples, so I'm hoping that they'll work in the staple gun. We'll find out very shortly. This is the staple loading mechanism. In order to operate this, you've got to push it forward, as in that way, and then flick it upwards like so, and then this will just pull back. You put the staples or the brads in there. I'll go through that in a minute though, but that's just to give you a quick look at it. Just push it back in and it clips back in again. There is a little window there so you can see when you're running out of staples or brads. Obviously we've got the trigger. This pin releases a trigger mechanism and allows the staple gun to fire, so it won't work unless that is pressed against whatever it is you're going to actually staple or brad. So this presses against the workpiece, releases the trigger, and then you can fire the staple gun. Now I'm hoping you can see that there is a little arrow there. On this rubberized button at the top, you can see there's a minus sign and a plus sign. That is a minimum setting. And that is a maximum setting. See, the plus is against the arrow, and you can turn this either way, clockwise or anti-clockwise, to set the power. Now, me being a bit of a Neanderthal, I think I'll be leaving it on full power all the time unless there's a reason not to. And on the back of the unit there is an on-off switch. You mustn't forget about that. So I'm going to put some 14mm staples in now. And remember, these are the T50 staples. They just slide in. Again, push it forward and it kind of clicks into place. It's not difficult to do. So what I'm going to do first is just try it in some ordinary pine. We'll go through the different settings, minimum and maximum, and we'll see how well it does with 14mm staples. The thing that I really like about this staple gun is the fact that the actual base is just one long length. So when you press this staple gun against the wood, you know that it's going to fire at 90 degrees. Now that is a big advantage. So what I'm going to do is, I'm on maximum setting at the moment. I'm going to fire a staple in, just pressing the gun down against the wood. And I am putting a fair bit of force on this. And it's on maximum power. So this is the first staple. And I can see that that's driven that in fairly well, but it's not fully in. And the second one I'm going to drive in, I'm going to push down on the head, because these guns all work better when you apply force directly onto the head where the staple comes out. And I'm pressing down reasonably hard on this. Now you could actually hear the difference between the two staples. And there is a definite difference there between pressing down on the head of a staple gun and just holding the staple gun against the wood, even though I was pressing fairly hard. So that's a technique that you need to use when you're using these things. So what I'll do now is I'll fire 2 more staples in on the minimum setting and we'll see what they're like. And this is graduated. You can set it at different settings. That's on minimum now, and I'll do the same thing again. So I'm pressing against the wood and then I'm going to do it pressing on the head. They've both been driven in around about the same. So there's very little difference between the maximum pressure and the minimum pressure as far as softwood's concerned. So the other thing I'm going to do is we'll look at kind of rapid firing. It's very easy to drive these in quickly. This is on the minimum setting and these have all gone in nicely. There's no issues with this at all. The electric version is way quicker than the manual version. I've had a route around and I've found some oak, so we'll try it on some oak and see what it's like on the minimum setting. Pressing down on the head. That's actually driven it straight into well-seasoned oak on the minimum setting. If I just hold it down without pressing on the head, we'll see what it's like. And again, that is not bad at all. I'll put it on the maximum setting. Yeah, there is a definite difference. That's driven it below the surface there. And then just holding it down by hand. So you can see pressing down on the head when it's at the highest setting in hardwood drives it below the surface. I'm impressed with that. That's pretty good. So now I'm going to demonstrate this as a nailer using the maximum sized brads, 15mm, 5/8 of an inch, so it's over half an inch. The brads that you buy from Stanley are too long to fit in the bay there, so you have to snap them to length. Now, it doesn't really matter where you snap them, so long as they'll actually fit inside. If you look on the bottom there, you'll see it says brads with an arrow pointing that way. So the brads go in this way, slide in, pushed to that side. Now you can see those brads are actually up against the left hand side of this as we're looking at it. Pushing the plunger, and then if we look inside you can see we've got the brads in there, so that's loaded. So that means that the brads will be coming out of this right hand side of the gun. So let's just try that and see what it's like on maximum power. Just holding down. Yeah, that's virtually driven all the way in. I'm going to press a bit harder actually. That's gone below the surface. You can actually see the little T-piece hammer there has made an indentation because obviously there's no staple for the rest of it. And then we'll try it on minimum on pine. Pressing down and then holding down. And as you can see, it's driven them in without any problems at all. In fact, the minimum settings driven it in further. I must have been pressing down a little bit harder. But no problems with that. So let's try that on oak as well. So this is set on minimum. Not pressing it down. Pressing it down. Maximum. Not pressing it down. Pressing it down. Minimum, not pressing it down and pressing it down, and maximum, not pressing it down and pressing it down. It's driven that right inside the wood. If I turn it around this way, you might actually be able to see the brad in there. Now, in all honesty, I can't see myself really using the brad feature on this staple gun, but I can envisage possibly using the 5/8 brads for things like thin plywood. If I'm actually cutting a template out and I want to attach that template onto a piece of wood or something like that, up to 1/4 of an inch, I reckon you'll get away with using this to actually fix it. Maybe 3/8 is the maximum thickness that you can use it to, around about 9mm. So we're just lining this to stop any weeds from coming up through. Now, I am going to press down on the head because that's going to be too difficult for me to do while I'm doing this. And obviously, brads would be no good for this. You definitely need a staple gun for this job. It's making life way easier. When I was using the manual one, it was taking way longer and a lot more strain on the wrists. It's just going to be filled with soil when I've finished it, so there's no point trying to make it look brilliant. I'm not going to leave it a mess, but I don't need to spend too much time with it. And you can see just how easy it is with this thing. There's no messing around at all. It's Very quick compared to a handheld manual stapler. So there we go. That's the job completed. Now I think this is a smashing piece of kit. It certainly saved me a load of time. It's not something I'll be using all the time, it's just something I'll be going to occasionally. But I must say that using an electric one compared to the manual one is so much easier and so much quicker. That was a pure joy then. Just putting those sheets in the bottom of those beds there was very, very easy. Anyway, that's me finished. I hope you've enjoyed the review and thank you for watching.